Elizabeth wrote on it in cursive and Derek added a smiley face. You really felt like a kid again. It was a nice time, and it resulted in a lovely homemade card. When you were really finished, Elizabeth spoke up. All right, you've got to go. She stretched her legs and arms, spreading out wide. Being bored all day is going to be the least of our worries if Mom's comes in and you've magically appeared in the living room. Right, instead, we got to magically vanish into thin air. She snatched up the card for your moms and waved it in her hand. I'll make sure they get this after you've come home for real. They'll never know you were here. Her eyes narrowed, looking between you and Derek. Enjoy what's left of your little sleepover. Derek's mouth dropped open fruitlessly, then he closed it again. He didn't know what to say to that. Finally, he waved and chirped out a generic farewell. Bye, Elizabeth. Yeah, I mean, if we're just turning around all over again and going through all that, and then we have to be driven back here again, I'm like... Part of it's because I don't like traveling. I don't like road trips. So the idea of, like, going back, coming all the way here, staying for, an hour, coming all the way back, and then coming back again, it just feels like, it's just like, is it really worth it? Subjectively, for me, no. Subjectively, maybe I'm just an awful younger sibling. Maybe I'm just a terrible, terrible younger sibling. But, yeah. Bye. See you around. Yeah. We will. I'll say, yeah. You waved. You winked. You gave her a hug. I'm not ready. Hug is... I'm not ready for a hug. You held out your hand for a high five. You winked. You waved. I'm waving. Elizabeth folded her arms and rolled her eyes in staged annoyance. She couldn't take the smile off her face. Tell the kids I said hi.
Bye.
Bye. With your mission accomplished, the two of you returned to the wide-open world. Returning to the parking lot was a far more leisurely trip than your arrival had been. There was time before takeoff again. You drifted ahead like the lazy white clouds above you. The fluffiness of them made you think of marshmallows. The pale orange 12-seater came into sight, parked at the far edge of the lot. You and Derek got your tickets to ride and hopped on. A few scattered tourists in their sun hats and floral-patterned shorts were seated throughout the cabin. The small number of people in the space still felt cramped because of the limited room in the car. You could smell their sunscreen in the air. In a slow curving motion, the shuttle pulled out. Derek sat rigidly, silently tapping his pointer fingers against the top of his knees for the entire trip. No words were exchanged by anyone, except a few rules and updates mumbled out by the driver. People were tired from their own long adventures out in the world. You could only imagine what the strangers sharing the shuttle had been through while barely audible acoustic guitar tracks played on the radio. Eventually the shuttle arrived. Each person went their separate ways, except for you and Derek, who stayed by one another's side as a pair. He navigated the station with the maps he had just kept tucked in his back pocket as a guide. And finally you sat down in the deep blue, well-worn fabric of a city bus seat for the last ride. When the bus pulled out of this time, Derek wiped his brow with his wristband. You made it back to Derek's city. No mortifying calls would have to be made from an overpriced bus stop payphone to beg one of your parents to come get you. Derek slipped lower in his seat and stretched his legs out in the aisle. The bus wasn't even half full, so making a little extra room for himself wasn't getting in anyone's way this time. On the outside, the sun was still dipping under the horizon, giving the air relief from its sweltering heat. It all came together to make the metal tube of public transportation less suffocating, totally incomparable to the experience you had had at the height of the afternoon. Now it was safe to relax.
Phew.
Good job, us. He chirped with a mixture of relief and fulfillment, like you just had an 8-hour shift at a serious adult company. We're victorious people. Thank you for helping me, Derek. I really appreciate all this, you know. It means a lot that you were here. I think this is the best Father's Day I've ever had. Thanks. I'm just going to say it means a lot to me that you were here. I don't know if he really helped me or if I really appreciate doing this, but I really appreciate him being with me the whole time. It means a lot to me that you were here. Derek made a big show of swatting his hand nonchalantly, which pretty much completely precluded it from being a casual gesture. The grin on his face couldn't even pretend to be unaffected. He was thrilled.
I try.
No worries, Hark. Siblings look out for siblings. And he looked directly at you. Friends look out for friends. We're a good team. I can always rely on you. Thanks for holding my hand before. You smiled at him. You bashfully stared at your hands. I said, thanks for holding my hand before.
You're welcome.
Ah, you're welcome. Anytime. You rested your head against Derek. You put your arm around Derek's shoulders. Derek leaned against your shoulder. You relaxed into the back seat. You looked out in the window. You rested your head against Derek, even though I'm taller than him. Still. Gently, you shifted over to let the side of your face nestle against your seat neighbor. Derek's eyes fluttered closed with a sweet sigh. You were snuggled in for the final leg of the journey, and all you had to do was wait. There was a soft vibration in the back of the bus. It slowly went up your spine and all the way down to the tips of your toes. During the ride before, the sensation had frayed at your nerves. Now it was soothing. With every step that passed, your eyelids grew heavier. If yours wasn't just the fourth one down the line, you might have fallen asleep. You and Derek were the only ones who got off at this point. The two of you hopped from the front door of the bus onto the sidewalk. Derek leisurely retraced the familiar path you had gone on with him, matching step for step. It was peaceful, and with how close you had been to dozing off, it almost felt like walking through a dream. Finally, you arrived at the Suarez condo after a long, eventful afternoon away. You may not have lived there, but seeing that door made you feel welcome and safe. Derek clicked his key into the slot and pulled the handle forward. All traces of sleepiness that had lingered in your eyes were instantly wiped away. Derek unavoidably tripped the wire on a mini-explosion. Derek's... There's Nicholas. The condo wasn't nearly as empty as it was when you left. The whole rest of the family had arrived before you. They were gathered together on the couch and bar stools, except for Nicholas, who had jumped onto his feet to launch himself at his brother. I'm wondering if we didn't stay, to make Father's Day cards, if we would have beaten them. That would be a really good touch if it mattered whether we left right away or not. His short arms circled around Derek's legs. It was an interaction that had happened dozens, maybe even hundreds of times before. That was a hallmark of their own unique sibling relationship. Derek fulfilled his part of the tradition and stroked Nicholas's hair. At the same time, he offered the rest of his family a laid-back greeting. Hey!
Good evening.
Good evening to you both. Happy Father's Day, Mr. Suarez. Hi. Welcome back. There was a knowing lilt to her tone and a crook in her smile. Did you have a good trip? Clutched securely between her fingers was a piece of paper. You didn't have to think too hard to guess what it was. The note you'd left explaining what had happened.
What a day.
Yes, what a day. It's best you were able to spend time with your family. His parents were both perfectly contented. You had their full support for going on an adventure. Thanks, Mom. Thanks, Dad. It was good. Derek gratefully replied to his parents, all the while sneaking a warm gaze at you. Agreed. Thanks for not grounding Derek. I'm glad I got to see Elizabeth. Are you going to tell my moms about this? You quietly nod. Thanks for not grounding Derek. We've never had to ground Derek. He punishes himself so much that we don't need to pile it on. Mom, please. That is so like him. Nicholas simply held tight to Derek's jeans the entire time, happy he was there and totally unaware of what the older people were talking about. George stood in between his parents with his arms pressed to his sides. He had been listening with amusement, his thin eyebrows pinched and his lips pursed. Hey, Nicholas, George, Elizabeth says hi. She said that last time I talked to her before coming here. You rushed to explain yourself after giving your sister's message without thinking. No seemed suspect. No one seemed to suspect the last time you'd seen her was as recent as it was. The basic greeting put a smile on both little boys' face. Hi, Elizabeth. Okay, I say hi to her too, because George really likes her. Now what? Mrs. Suarez snickered cheekily, resting her actual cheek against Mr. Suarez. Well, I'm sorry to say, you better turn right around and go back the way you came. It's time to bring Hark home. But don't worry, I'll drive. Oh, yeah. With a wink and a grin, Derek scratched his head back to his head. You chuckled right along with his mom. See, this is why this whole thing just feels like... Go over there, turn back around, come back here, turn back around. I'm like... Someone like me who said, I do not like traveling. If I'm going to travel, it better be worth it. The destination and the time spent at the destination better be worth it. Because if it's not, it's triggering for me. I have a real problem with it. With a wink and a grin, Derek... Mostly because I'm the kind of person who likes to feel like I am being very, efficient with my time. And doing this, to me, does not feel efficient at all. But that's just me. With a wink and a grin, Derek scratched his back at the back of his head. You chuckled right along with his mom. You had a great time staying with the Suarez family, but were very much looking forward to seeing your moms and being reunited with your own sibling after a humorously short time apart. There would be plenty more moments of fun and laughter to come when you were. Thanks to Derek, it was truly an occasion worth commemorating. Okay, so my immediate feelings about that moment. I really enjoyed the first half of it, and then the second half was just weird. It was really weird. I know I'm probably a terrible person for I probably am a terrible person for not empathizing with Elizabeth more, but yeah, it just felt it just felt kind of weird to me that the game didn't give us a choice. I felt like most of the time they would give us a choice, and the fact that we didn't get that just felt odd. The other critique I wanted to mention is that I think one, I kind of wanted to be able to spend more one-on-one time with Derek, and I felt that we could have been given an option to stay at his house and not necessarily travel all the way back to Sunset Bird to Elizabeth. And by all means, I want the option to be there, because I totally get the reasoning behind wanting to go back and cheering up your sister. Like, don't trust me, I totally understand that. But at the same time, for the people who specifically purchased a Derek DLC, I think a huge draw for a Derek DLC is to actually have more one-on-one time with Derek. I didn't mind it so much between him and his brothers, because I still felt like we got a lot of Derek in those scenes, even though we were sort of sharing him with the siblings. But during the whole like Elizabeth portion, yes, we were with Derek the whole time, but the majority of it was spent like traveling, talking about how, we went on the bus and then we got on the shuttle and then, rinse and repeat on the way back. And yes, I do admit that there were some sweet moments where you would, hold onto Derek's hand or rest your head on Derek or have him rest on you, or et cetera, et cetera. So yes, I admit those moments were great too, but overall, I just felt like there was a lot of potential, and there was just a lot of time spent just in traveling back and forth between Sunset Bird that could have instead be spent just spending more quality time with Derek. We at least were able to have that in the Boardwalk DLC. So even though, again, we did spend a lot of time with Elizabeth also, and George and Nicholas and the parents, it was fine because I thought there was enough, I guess, valuable and meaningful and impactful Derek and main PC elements that it was alright. But for this one, like, it really, again, the whole thing of going over to Elizabeth did feel a little out of place and a little bit odd in some senses when you're looking at it purely from I bought this Derek DLC so I could spend time with Derek, and I'm not spending enough time with Derek, like in a more meaningful way. So I'm hoping that the other three are going to be better about this, because I can see that being a critique for other people who also are big fans of Derek, and they just kind of want to just spend as much time with him and not necessarily share him with other people, share him with other scenes. But I also do appreciate, though, the fact that these stories, these moments, do let us learn more about Derek's family and the family dynamics. I really love that a lot. I really, really do. But throwing the Elizabeth stuff in there, it just felt like a filler, or for the people who, may not care as much for it, it felt unnecessary. But that's just my opinion. Okay, so I actually wanted to take a break from doing the new moments from the Derek DLC, and I actually wanted to go back and do some of the base games DLC that included Derek in them, just to sort of break things up a little bit. I don't know. I had read that there were some things, small minor updates to the base game moments that are included in the Derek DLC. Maybe maybe they might reference some of the other moments that we had in the Derek DLC moment, so I'm not really sure. So I kind of want to intersperse them here in this game and just see if there's any cause and effect. So I believe the two here that Derek is prominently involved in is the mall and summer work. So I think I'm going to go with let's go with summer work, because I believe I did the mall before I did summer work last time, and so if I remember correctly, so I think I'm gonna do it in reverse order and do summer work first before I do the mall. You stared out the window, watching the scenery pass by as your mom drove down the quiet streets at a leisurely pace. A singer crooned sweetly from the radio, turned low enough that you could block it out if you wanted. You turned away from the window when your mom suddenly spoke up. Well, kids, are you excited to be going to the library? Yeah, I can't wait to get there. Nope, I guess. Yeah, I can't wait to get there. Mom laughed, catching your eye in the rearview mirror and winking. I don't know why I asked. I already know how you feel about it. What about you, Cove? You're a part of the conversation too. I am curious to see how this plays out. Now, since Cove and I are just kind of meh with each other. I can work better there than at home. It's good we're going, I think.
Sounds good.
Well, I'm happy this will be of use to you. Just make sure you're not distracted by one another. That would defeat the purpose of the trip. She grinned over at you briefly, so you knew she was kidding and meant nothing by it. Mom refocused on driving, humming along with the radio under her breath. You went back to staring outside. As you passed one street, you caught a glimpse of someone in brightly colored clothing passing out balloon animals. It was an absolutely gorgeous day. You leaned your face to the sunshine, tempted to close your eyes as the gentle rays warmed your cheeks. Hark? Huh? You lifted yourself up a bit more, seeing your mom twisting her torso to face you, confused from the front seat of the car. Next to you was nothing. Cove's car door was already open. You had reached the destination before you even realized it. I was asking, what time should I pick you two up? Oh, 4 should be okay. That should give you enough time to finish your summer's assignments, or at least make a large enough dent. Thanks, Mom. You hopped out of the car, remembering to grab your backpack at the last second. All right then, have fun you two. We will. You closed the door, giving a little wave. She waved back. The two of you went right up to the door of the library. Cove reached it first and tugged it open, stepping inside. You slipped in behind him before it could fall shut. The air was much cooler inside the building than it had been for the few seconds you spent outdoors. The space was filled with the soft din of papers being moved and whispered voices. Hey, you seem kind of distracted on the ride here. Just enjoying the day. I'm excited to see Derek. Want to walk around for a bit? I'm excited to see Derek. Cove nodded a little, but he didn't say anything in response. That's kind of cold, though. I'd be like, yeah, I just really want to see someone else. I hope I didn't say it like that, but, priorities. Your study buddy was standing at the front of the library by a long rack of magazines. My study buddy. More like my study hubby. Predictably, he was flipping through with various sports players on the cover, looking intense to burst off the page. I just found out that Derek's descent, his descent is Mexican. I didn't know he was Mexican. Kind of hot, not gonna lie. He has that, beautiful tan, doesn't he? His head snapped up when you walked over, beaming widely. Hey, Hark, Cove. Hi. Were you waiting for a while? Not super long. Derek put the magazine back in its place, then he gestured to the space at his side. Most of the tables were empty, only a few people leafing through books. There's plenty of room. In unspoken agreement, the three of you started moving towards the seating area, Derek taking 2 steps for every one of Cove's. Oh, guess what? I'm pretty sure I've mastered the fake shot. I'll show you some other time. Derek looked over to gauge the level of interest. Do you know it? Soccer's not really for me. How does it go? Derek's eyes flashed with excitement as he explained. Well, you move the ball like you're going to go one way. Then, he demonstrated by running a few steps ahead, showing off some fancy footwork. You do it like this, so it does it like that. You laughed, bobbing your head as attempted to get the trick across with no ball. Shh. The three of you looked back over to the checkout desk. The librarian stood behind it and was wearing a deep frown. You felt bad. You were all apologetic. You didn't think it was a big deal. I'm apologetic. You mouthed, sorry, and she sighed before turning back to the book she was reading. Derek scratched his cheek, choosing not to let that derail things. So, what are you guys working on? What weren't you working on? There were some things you had gotten to start with. You had yet to start a single assignment, sadly. You had yet to start a single assignment because you didn't feel like it. What weren't I working on? I'm a very diligent student, even over the summer, when I have schoolwork, apparently, over the summer. You had started work on most of your assignments, not wanting to leave them until the last minute. Yeah, I know I'm in the minority, vast minority, but I'm a terrible, terrible procrastinator in that I can't or don't procrastinate. And the only reason for that is because I do not do well under pressure at all. I panic if there's something that's like, if there hypothetically was an assignment that was due, like, and I had not gotten, like, it done the night before, if it wasn't done the night before, or I hadn't gotten most of it done the night before, I would panic. So knowing that about myself, I do everything under my power to avoid those panicking situations. So that's why I don't procrastinate, because I am more fearful. I have so much more anxiety over being in a position where I'm, like, under pressure, that it is a huge motivator for me. I am incentivized to do everything ahead of time, and not procrastinate. That's the only reason I don't procrastinate. And for the most part, I think it's been very helpful. Now, again, I panic under pressure. So that is a huge weakness of mine, but I think the benefits for me, in my experience, the benefits outweigh the weaknesses, I guess. You hadn't decided which to focus on this afternoon, though, so you had brought all of them. Who knows, there was a chance you would be able to finish all of them, or so you hoped. I think I'll work on my history assignment. I've got some math problems that need work. I don't care, I don't know. I'm a big math person, so I've got some math problems that need work. The atmosphere was good for studying, and you felt motivated to tackle them. There's some summer reading, too. I have to go through an assigned book, but I'm going to do that later since it doesn't need extra references or anything. What about you two? I've got a few worksheets. They look pretty easy, but my school gave us 3 books to read. Can't they stick with just one? I'm doing a timeline for history. You all found a table close to the tall bookshelves and set up camp. Within seconds, pencils and folders and books were strewn out to the surface. You focused on your work. You doodled. You just looked out the window again. No. I try to get all my work done so I can play right after. Work hard so I can play hard and early. That's the way I work. That's the way I operate. You were pretty confident you could get it done before your mom was set to return. You checked the requirements on the homework sheet your teacher had given you, then opened up your textbook to the pages you needed. After some time, Cove shifted in his seat, twisting his back as if trying to work knots out of it. His discomfort made you realize you'd been sat in place for quite some time. I need to stretch my legs. All right, cool. I'm gonna stick at it here. I'm making good progress. I'll come with you. I'll stay too. You didn't want to break your concentration and have to get back into it. No, I just didn't want to leave Derek. Let's be real here. That's not the reason why I wanted to stay. I wanted to be able to... I didn't want to break my concentration on Derek. You go back to your work. No, I'm gonna chat. So, Derek, how's your assignment going? How's your assignment coming along? Derek flashed you a grin. It's whizzing by, no problem. How about yours? It's closer to being done than it was this morning. It's going okay. At this rate, I'm never going to finish it. It's going really great. It's going really great. Nice. But weird to think that we'll be back at school soon, huh? Yeah, a new school year. Are you looking forward to it? Wouldn't say I was looking forward to it, but this year is going to be the year. The year of what?
Right.
The year I'm on the team. He pumped his fist in the air and momentarily became too loud for a library again. The team? Which one? Football or soccer? Why not both? You don't know which? Good luck. You didn't comment, seeing if you would elaborate. You don't know which? Nope. Thing is, I haven't figured out how I'm gonna pick. I have one more time to practice and get real good if I stuck with just one. I don't know. So ultimately, I would love for Derek to choose whichever one he prefers. But if he wanted to know my opinion, if he was on the fence and could really go either way, and if you want to know my opinion, I would prefer soccer over football just because from what I understand, football is riskier than soccer or American football. Excuse me. American football is riskier than European football, or AKA soccer. I guess football everywhere else in the world, not just in Europe. Or football everywhere else. American football versus international football, or non-American football. Yeah, I just know that I just always hear stories of people who play football end up with, higher risk for injuries or for, just having health issues that follow them, indefinitely through life. Like, it just follows them through life, which in, I guess, non-American football, it is not there aren't as many cases of it. I'm sure there exist, but it's, I think the difference between the two is very noticeable. So, do what makes you happy. 2 sports means double the number of teams you can try for. You simply listen to him. Pick the one you do best in already. I vote for soccer. I vote for football. If he cares, I'm just going to say I vote for soccer.
Why?
Yeah, why? Because it's safer. Yeah, it's safer. I don't want you to get hurt. You do really good at it. I wouldn't say that because I would say you do really well at it. You do really well at it. Playing soccer is hotter. Actually, I do think I do think soccer is hotter. I don't know. I feel like if I had to choose, or whatever, non-American. When I say soccer, I mean non-American football. I don't know. If I were to pick between a soccer player before a football player, I think soccer players are hotter, in my opinion. Football players, not all of them, but they do tend to be like bigger and bulkier, and versus soccer players who are a little bit more trim, I guess, by comparison. And that's more my type. Don't you have to be big to play football? Oh, I'm not gonna say that. Playing soccer is hotter. In an instant, he smacked both his hands over his mouth and hung his head in an attempt to smother what was likely going to be a loud laugh. For a time, his face stayed low, and you could see his back shake as muffled giggles leaked out. Eventually, he partially lifted the fingers off. You could see his grin peeking through. Hark, you can't do that to me. We're in a library. Hark, you can't do that to me. We're in a library. I don't remember this choice. I don't remember him having to pick between football and soccer. I'm going to have to look back on this. Because I almost feel like I did also stay with Derek. Did his epilogue, did Derek's epilogue say that he ended up being a soccer player or a football player? I don't remember. You can't do that to me. We're in a library. His good mood was contagious, and you smiled back at him. But hey, how about you? What's the new school year you've got in store for you? I want to learn a new skill. I want to get in a sports team. No, I was not into sports at all. Lots of fun. Naps if I'm lucky. Work, I don't want to think about it. I mean, where's the socialization? I mean, I guess that's lots of fun. What's the new school year got in store for you? I mean, I want to work. I'm going to say I want to learn a new skill because I'm very studious.